Yeah, that's what it is. Are we starting? Are we going?
We did start.
Oh, cool. Yay. I'm allergic to mango, everybody. In case anyone was curious.
Well, Rachel, you've been in tons of films. Some of them were mine.
Sorry, worked on.
Worked on.
I'd like to
You're not an actress. You're not a performer.
Only for you
but
occasionally.
you have done it though. And but you've worked on films like Section 8 with Dolph Lundgren and a variety of other Lifetime films, and you've got a couple of films that you worked on coming out this year, like Mermaid.
Yep, South by Southwest. I'm so excited for that one.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of film set experience, and you're kind of going up the ladder. You've got a project as an AD coming up pretty soon, which is pretty awesome. But you and I have been friends for over 8 years at this point.
Is that how long it's been?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
We went to college together, community college, for a couple of years. That's where we met, and we just sort of just worked on each other's projects and kind of built our network from there. And you've kind of gone, I don't want to say the long route.
It's like I've gone, I mean, I have. Like, I've gone the uphill.
Yeah.
The uphill work up the ladder.
Yeah.
I think it's like, so a lot of people compare it. It's so funny because they'll compare it as like the business route.
Yeah.
Even though it's hard to like compare that. I think if you're actually in a business job, it's so different. But the idea of climbing up the ladder, you get your promotions, you work to the point where you can produce and make your own films.
It's a great way to go if you're trying to build a reputation and you're building a network of people, at least in your mind, that are like, hey, if we bring this guy in as a DP, he's going to be objectively good. But if you want something creative, you really got to hold his hands. And he might, he kind of has this sort of attitude if things go wrong. Like you have the ability to look at your, buffet of film workers and decide like who's best for my project, which is a huge advantage. I think
part of it too, which is something that like you and I have openly talked about, how like we're very different, is like you are an idea maniac, like
conceptual guy.
Can get so many ideas and you can write, really consistently, and like I just am not very good at that. And I think that's something that when I first started out, I thought meant I was like a failure kind of in creativity and in film, and that's not at all what it means. It just means that some people are better at coming up with ideas and concepts, and
different
some people
folks.
like are just, they take longer, they take slower to develop really good ideas. It kind of was an obvious choice for me because what I wanted to do in film, when I looked into it, when I was kind of at that cusp of the age where it's like, okay, what do I want to do within film? I was like, I just want to work in it. Like that is what it is for me. It's like I love being on set. I love the energy of being on set, and like I would rather take a lot longer to make my own project and cultivate a really good project while working on set than create my own projects offset and one day hire out. Because it's like, because you didn't like set that much when you did it. You did not love it, and it's totally fair. I love it. Like
if you're the kind of person that like has that sees filmmaking with rose-colored glasses, you're in for a rude awakening. And I did it I worked on, it was like 4 features. And then COVID came, and I got fired because I didn't want to take the vaccine. And after that whole experience, I was like, "This sucks." But you've leveraged it, and you've found a way to make it work for you.
Yeah.
And you're how old? 20, 23, 24?
23.
23, and you're already like. You've made rounds. People know you. They know
I
who
just sent in my
are.
resume the other day, and they emailed me, and they were like, yeah, well, we have a lot of really great people up for this position. Send us your resume. We'll see. I sent my resume. An hour later, they were like, yeah, you're the best candidate. You have so many qualifications.
Yeah.
They were like, we'd love for you to be on the project. And I was like, it kind of hits you in those moments where I was like, yeah, wow. Like, I do have like a lot under my belt for a 23-year-old. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's only a matter of time. We talk about this all the time, but it's only a matter of time before you make your...
Before I like one of my ideas enough.
And you make your debut, and it's just like...
It's phenomenal.
Blows everyone
Straight to
away.
the Oscars.
Yeah. No pressure, of course. No pressure at all.
No.
But it's going to be the greatest thing you've ever seen.
It's going to be the greatest film.
Greta Gerwig's got to look out because she's,
Whoa, some big competition.
But no pressure.
Big
No
competition there.
So I want to talk about what got you into film. If we go back to, you know.
Baby Rachel.
Baby Rachel. Why? What did it? What's the origin story?
So honestly, the origin story is something that I like completely fell upon it. My mom was like, we were very active as kids. Like we were always doing something. We always had hobbies and after school activities that she gave us the opportunities to be a part of, which I feel very lucky for. But with that meant that I tried every sport. I tried dance and I tried acting. I tried painting and drawing. Like I had done some kind of like after school. I tried golfing at one point, like every after school credit I could find as an option. I tried all of them, and I didn't have any natural talent in any of them. That's for sure. But I also like, there were none of them that I really enjoyed. And at the same time, I like to be like, kind of say I was an iPad kid, but I didn't have an iPad till I was like 14. So like, it's kind of like I was an iPad teenager, and I wasn't playing games and I wasn't watching YouTube videos. Like I was watching films. Like that was all I would do, is like all my spare time, whenever I'd get home, like I would want to finish my sports practice to go home and watch the newest, like whatever movie that I had found that I wanted to watch. And, I would make silly home videos. I used to make for Easter every year. We would do a big Easter egg hunt. And I used to make like a movie, like a James Bond style movie that corresponded with an egg hunt. And it was like so obvious that film was what I liked doing. But as a kid, it wasn't like an option. You know what I mean? Like most places it's like you do sports or you do dance or, or painting or whatever. And so it never really hit me that was an option, even though it was like pretty obvious that that's all I cared about doing. And I went to an art school where my brother was taking piano and I was taking dance. And that year they were opening up a filmmaking course, and begged my mom to do it. And she was like, you have to drop all your other classes because just the nature of this class. And I was like, I'll do it. I'll drop all of them. Like,
no problem.
Yeah, go away, leotards and tutus and dance. Like, I want to go to film. And this class was 3 hours long, which I think I was 14. And so like when you're 14 and you're agreeing to a 3-hour class,
that
like,
says something.
It
like
does.
About attention span.
It does. And
being,
if you know me, I don't have a great attention span. It's not the best. And everyone, like my parents, my siblings are like, you're going to go to like a 3-hour class. And I was like, I want to try it, like, I don't know. And when I tell you that not a single one of those classes felt like 3 hours, like all of them felt like 30 minutes. They were so fun. They flew by. Every time we were over, like we normally would stay for like 4 hours. Like we ended up like getting there early, or we'd stay later because we just loved it.
Didn't feel like work.
It didn't feel like work at all. And it was so obvious that when I did that class that I was like, this is it. This feels like my thing and what I want to do. And then when I found out that like, this can be a job, for so long it was kind of like, these are your hobbies and these are your careers. These are your hobbies and these are your careers. And like a career is business and doctors and offices and stuff. And hobbies are dancing and film and all and music. And then I was like, no, I can make this a career if I work really hard for it. And so I was kind of lucky enough to fall into it when I was like 14, 15, and just like went all in. Like once I knew that that's what I wanted to do, like went all in, dedicating all my spare time to, how do I make film happen for me as a career?
And then you get through high school, you start looking at sort of what a formal education could look like, and you end up at SCF.
Yeah. So this is like one of the biggest things I get asked by people who are in high school and like that kind of age. And even post, like people ask me all the time, like, well, did you go to college for it? Or should I go to college for film? It's like, that is like, I feel like that's the question. And so I also was wondering that when I was leaving high school, and I talked to I guess the college question answer would be, when I was in high school, I got the opportunity to dual enroll, which meant I could get my AA degree at the same time. And that is the only reason I went to community college, was to kind of impress my parents and impress my peers that I could get this AA thing that my siblings had tried to do and they couldn't quite do it. And it was like, honestly, completely like a selfish kind of motivation. Like it was really just to like show off what I could do. And in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it, to be honest. It did nothing for me but stress me out and take away time that I think I could have better spent. But no regrets. It's fine. I got to meet Zach, so it all turned out okay.
It's so funny because I walked away with the exact same.
Yeah, I think we both did. I was like, I don't actually regret going.
Yeah.
But was it a waste of time? Yes.
If going to community college meant that I would be able to network with Rachel DeBickero, then it was
it's
worth
completely
it.
worth it.
But beyond that,
not much.
I didn't get anything out of community college.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really didn't learn very much that I didn't already know.
Yeah, exactly.
like,
we were grasshopper filmmakers. We didn't need. We learned.
Yeah, I'd already learned a lot.
And on top of that, we
And if you
didn't
have
we didn't have the luxury of having professors who cared enough to push us.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, our resources at that school, like, that school is not meant to be, you know, like,
this is a community college.
yeah, like, we knew we were getting
downtown
into,
Bradenton.
yeah, and so it's like the school didn't have the resources for their film program to actually do any more than it could. But since we had both been lucky enough to get our own film education outside of this community college, the community college didn't do anything for us because we just were already at the level that they could teach. Nonetheless, all experience is good experience. Like, I definitely, there are things that I learned from being on these really awful college sets that, like, I did learn. But all that to say, since I did dual enrollment, I had seen a little bit of what a college could do for me and everything. I talked to my college professors, I talked to my high school professors, and I was like, hey, what do I do? I'm about to graduate, you know, do I go to college for this? I don't personally feel like I need it because I feel like I went to community college and I learned nothing new. Like, what do I do? And overwhelmingly, they told me just to get on set. And so my biggest, like, advice I tell people when they ask me is I just right away ask them, like, well, do you know film? And if they say no, and they're like, no, you know, I'm just interested in it, then I'm always like, go to school. But if you don't know, go to a community college first and then go to a bigger school. Because don't jump into...
What do you mean by... do you know film?
Like, it's kind of like what do you know about film? Like, how much do you know about film? How much, like, could you go on a set tomorrow and hold your own? You know, do you know enough of the lingo? Do you know enough of the departments? Like, do you know enough to start working? And if you have no knowledge of anything yet, then, like, you have to learn. I think at that point, I don't really ever think you need to spend a ton of money on film school. I think it's not super worth it, but, like, go to community college would be helpful for that, to at least learn your departments, at least learn, like, what you're expected in each, like, you know, that's...
Do you have a social circle? Are you surrounded by people who know film better than you do?
Yeah.
Because if you don't,
then you have to...
that was my thing, was I grew up homeschooled. Nobody in my social circle knew film, let alone people who knew more than I did.
Yeah.
So being exposed to people who knew more about it than I did was... really
what you
helpful.
needed, and I think I kind of try to help people, like, look at what they're missing and what do they need, and is that something that film school has to give you, like, almost exclusively? Then go try a film school for it. But most of the time it's not, and I just always tell everyone, like, get on set, you know, intern if you can. Be careful with interning because you could get stuck working for free for too long, and then you're just like, I tell every people, intern 3 times. Intern 3 times. If you're still not getting paid for your work, respectfully, you're not doing it good enough. Like, that.
Don't make my mistake.
But yeah, I'm like, if you've interned more than 3 times and no one's calling you for a job, that just means they have better people. Like, and at the end of the day, that is the nature of this business. Is that you are fighting to be the best so that you get the phone call. Like, that is what this business is. And so for me, they told me that everyone told me that they didn't feel like college was going to be more successful for me. They felt like I should just get on a set. And they were like, you know, spend $1,000 and go to LA for a week and meet as many people as you can and get on a job. They're like, that's a better use of money than going to a college. And I stand by that. I think that's a very, very true statement.
The money that you would spend on college could be better spent.
You could get connections and easier, because the thing is, college, if you already have the knowledge, if you don't need to learn a ton more, you're just getting connections. And to spend a tuition to meet people when you could just kind of be social and put yourself in situations where you can meet people, obviously, like, is better spent. So that was my plan, was I was going to go travel somewhere and I was going to go try and meet as many people as I could. And then COVID happened, and obviously I couldn't travel anymore. So I pivoted, started working with my friends, including you, on making whatever projects we could during COVID, just to stay busy, to stay creative, to keep working on our craft.
Taking what we learned in community college. It was more like
taking the people I met at community college,
taking the people we met in community college,
and working with them a little bit,
and seeing, okay, who do I like working with?
Yeah.
Who do I like, and
what type of people do I like working with? Because like that's
that's
a big start.
That's what it was for me. I like this person because they're talented, but they're not the kind of people I would want in my crew.
Yeah.
Or This person
Big
just
difference.
sucks altogether, and I got to look for somebody. Like, that's sort of what...
And we mostly agreed on these people, which was the fun part about it.
Yeah, and that's, I feel like, why we've been friends for so long is because we may not think creatively the same way.
No. We really don't think alike in a ton of areas.
But we have very similar character values, and we know that if we both commit to each other's projects, that level of discipline and character and stress management and overall, like, we keep things light. We were pretty good at keeping things light.
And I think with you too is like a big thing that I've learned very quickly is like respect is a massive part of film, and respect and trust, and like you've never broken my trust, and you've always earned my respect. And on any project I've worked with you, no matter how low budget, no matter how bad the situation, like you have maintained the integrity and made sure I've been safe, I've been taken care of as best as you can allow me to get taken care of. Like, so I know that whatever project you're going to bring me, it's like, I'm not going to make $2 billion, like I normally make, but no, but it's like, I know I'm going to get taken care of. I know I'm going to get treated well. I'm going to be on a safe set. And I think the same could be said for, I mean, a project that I'm going to work on or I'm going to bring you on to.
I think Kestis was a real testament to our dynamic because
it
there
complemented
were
so well.
many times where I could have checked in and like made sure, hey, were you doing this? Were you doing this? Were you doing this? Were you doing this?
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't want to do any of that.
Which
I would much rather talk with
yeah.
the actors. I want to see the costumes. I want to direct this. I want to focus on this sort of area, and all these other things were magically being taken care of.
That's literally my least favorite part about someone I work with. If they're micromanaging, like I don't want to work with them because it's just like if you're micromanaging, that means you don't trust me to do my job. And if you're hiring me because you know I'm good, then that contradicts. Like either you don't trust me to do my job, or you don't think I'm going to be good at my job, or you have some internal issue that allows you just to have to micromanage. But either way, that's an unpleasant person to work with. And the whole thing about the film industry is like when you're on like a big set where you have, I mean, I did a TV show that our crew was 150, and it's like everything, obviously it's not seamless, but when you're there and you just like do a 360, it's like every department's working on their own, and it's like that's what it should be. Everyone should be independent, and everyone should be working, and everyone should be achieving the goals that's been laid out to them. And if every single person in every department's micromanaging every other person, nothing's gonna happen.
But that's why the industry can be so cutthroat at times. Is because they're wanting that same thing. They don't want to micromanage. They want to be able to hire somebody knowing without a shadow of a doubt that they're going to do the work, they're going to do it right, and they won't have to watch them. They got other things to do. They don't want to micromanage you. They really don't.
Yeah.
And so they're looking for people who are independent, who are committed, who are disciplined, and can handle stress. And so that's the growing process. Is like how you
getting to that point.
So you mentioned watching films in your spare time and how like you're finding these moments and you're developing a taste for certain things. What were the sort of films that were influencing you and developing your palette?
I mean, originally, it was not. It was like just a lot of Disney and stuff because that's what I like to watch as a kid, and that's what I was allowed to watch. But as soon as I think my sibling Micah like really opened me up to a world of new movies when I kind of got to the age my parents would let me start watching stuff, and he showed me my first Christopher Nolan movie and like started showing me like like in my head, like the big movies, and they blew my mind. I think one right off the bat was Memento by Christopher Nolan. That movie just absolutely rearranged what I thought a movie could be. I was like, whoa, movies can be written like that. Same with Inception when I watched that for the first time. When you just watch these super mind-bending movies, blew my mind that, like you could just kind of get that complex. I think as of like today, you could probably guess, you probably already know my answer, but Little Women. What year is that
Bird.
one? 2019. Yeah. The new Little Woman by Greta Gerwig is my number one most influential film. It influences how I work. It influences how I write. Influences how I want to direct.
It influences the kind of men you're attracted to.
Well, maybe a little, but it influences it really does influence like my relationships. Like that shaped my worldview. Like that movie's so impactful for me. I actually just made my fiance watch it for the first time, and he just finished it, and he was like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense now. Like you even
I
recognize,
understand everything.
Yeah, you really like understood a lot. And then I think secondly, my other big one is Arrival. I feel like that movie doesn't get enough credit overall, or at least not talked about enough. But I think that movie's phenomenal. I think it does at least what I want to try to do, of like this perfect complementary relationship of like, it's a drama and it's about this family and about this mom and daughter, but there's aliens and it's sci-fi and it's mind-bending.
See, that's
so cool.
That's where we connect.
Yeah.
Is you just explained Arrival as like this drama about a married couple and playing with themes of divorce and marriage and there's aliens.
And there's aliens.
The way I would describe Arrival is it's this really realistic take on aliens and spaceships.
It's completely different.
But it's also about this family dynamic.
You like flop it.
We just inverts it.
But I love Arrival for that, and I think that's something that like I'd really love to make, is like these really hard-hitting dramas that are also flipping a concept on its head and it's still you're still mind blown. And those are the movies I'm always drawn to, is either like Marriage Story and We Live in Time and like all the all these movies that are just about relationships and they're impactful and you're crying and like all this stuff. And on the flip side, Star Wars,
context,
Arrival,
the context underneath, like that's sort of the icing on the base of it is the concept, like you're in space, or it's the zombie apocalypse, or it's this, or like
The Last of Us is another prime example. That's a movie about a relationship in a sci-fi zombie universe, and that is I feel
like
cup
Hollywood's
of tea.
sort of forgotten that. They put all the eggs in the concept, and then the story sort of
I definitely think there's like so many that haven't done it well that have come out in recent years, where it's like they're trying. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the Star Wars TV shows are good examples of that, where it's like they're trying really hard to hit this like sci-fi and relationships and sci-fi and drama, and they're just
I think
it's
Disney
not going
saw
well.
Star Wars as an opportunity to buy a concept, as opposed to seeing it as an opportunity to buy the characters,
and their relationships.
Breaking into the film industry feels impossible. Every aspiring filmmaker knows the struggle. Years of passion, countless hours studying cinema, and yet no clear path forward. The industry feels like a locked door and no one is giving you the key. I know that feeling because I've lived it. I grew up captivated by Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Pulp Fiction, Taxi Driver, so on and so forth. I went to film school expecting to walk out with connections and career opportunities. Instead, I graduated with 0 leads and a sinking feeling that my dream was slipping away. Everything changed when I uncovered the key lessons every successful filmmaker eventually learns, but no one is talking about. These lessons aren't found in film school or industry gatekeeping blogs. They came from real filmmakers doing the work, people who have found ways to break in, build careers, and make films outside the Hollywood machine. That's why I created my podcast, interviewing filmmakers from Bradenton and Sarasota who have actually made it happen. They're working, thriving, and proving that a career in the filmmaking industry is possible. Now I'm inviting you behind the scenes. Join my Patreon and get exclusive, unfiltered access to the knowledge and insights that can help you forge your own filmmaking path. Full-length, uncut podcast interviews are available with working filmmakers sharing their real experiences, struggles, and successes. There's going to be in-depth critiques where I break down storytelling, cinematography, and filmmaking techniques in some of my favorite films. There's going to be behind-the-scenes updates on my book, The Lodestar Manifest. There's also going to be a 7-day free trial for anybody who wants to try my Patreon out. There's also opportunities to explore an exclusive one-on-one collaboration with myself where I'll personally watch your film or read your script and give you practical, actionable feedback to elevate your work. If you're serious about filmmaking, this is where you start. Join now and let's create old stories today. Go to patreon.com/Zach Golden. Now, Rachel, how does someone in the film industry balance their different aspects of life? We've talked about, you're about to get married. Not everybody is religious, but if you are religious, just like anything else in life, if you care about something, you're going to apply time and effort to it, which means you've got to prioritize it. So because you're all of these different things, you're not just a filmmaker, you're tons of other stuff too. What has the balancing act been like for you, and how would you, what would you do differently if you could go back?
Honestly, I think the balancing of life and film is harder than it was for me to break into the film industry. Like, and I think it's one of those things that's extremely hard. And I think you can talk to 100 different filmmakers and they're all going to tell you a different thing. They're all going to tell you a different way that they've done it. But all I can say is that is probably the hardest part about this job. For anyone who maybe doesn't know, your average shift is 12 hours, and that's pretty much your minimum. You are most of the time working between 14 and 16 hours. Therefore, you're getting about 10 hours off a night, but by the time you've driven and because you're never working by your house ever. You're always gonna be working an hour away. I don't care where you live. You're always driving an hour. And so it's like by the time you get home, you have like 8 hours of sleep. So, there's no time in that chunk to see someone. And when you're working a feature, you're going for about 3 to 5 weeks of that, 6 days a week or 5 days a week. But on that weekend, you're sleeping. Like, and it's just, you get to this point where you just go in this like void of no one around you for like a month when you're on a feature. And that's what it felt like when I first started, is like, I'd see all my friends and I'd like gather up all this time with these people. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to see you guys for a month and a half. And I'd go in this like kind of really, really rough spot, because in my head, when I first started out, it was one or the other. And so when I went on a movie, I stopped going to church or going to any online church of any kind. I, really only talked to those I had to, which has pretty much always been like my mom and, my boyfriend, now fiance. Like, those were the only people that I would talk to. And even that, it was like a text good night, a text good morning, a text at lunch being like, yeah, today's great, today's bad. Like, it was so minimal. And I just kind of thought that's how you had to do it. And obviously that's not a good way to do it.
It's easy when you first start out to choose film so in a way that's sort of polarizing. It's like, well, this is my dream. Like, I don't want to settle for the mundane. And so it can be really easy to slip into that
it's so easy because you're like, oh, this is just what I have to do, man, that you don't understand it. But like, you mature, and I grew up and I realized that like that's not how it has to be. And so like what I do right now is you absolutely have to prioritize, and like that is so important. And you have your priorities of people, you have your priorities of like, how am I going to spend my time off, and you categorize that as is. I think COVID was really helpful in that world, because like online churches, the amount of like FaceTiming that is like kind of acceptable now, I think, versus like in-person time is all really helpful. And so if I work a Sunday and I'm off Wednesday, Thursday, then I make Wednesday, Thursday my like Sabbath. And that's when I do an online church. My fiance's great, and he's very happy to go alongside that with me. So if I'm working a Sunday, he won't go to church Sunday, and then he'll wait and we'll plan a time together on my weekend, Wednesday or Thursday, whatever day of the week it is.
That's really cool.
We'll do it together.
And that's a testament to the nature of what we do is you inevitably find people that are not malleable, but they're able
to be flexible. They have to be flexible.
You have to have flexible friendships.
You have to, absolutely.
You have to have flexible, intimate relationships, like people who are willing to go with you. And I feel like that sort of helps filter out the kind of people.
I think what it is what I tell a lot of people is like, for dating specifically, like you have to kind of go about it long distance, to be honest. And you kind of have to understand, like, I think more so for your partner dating someone in film. Like, my fiance has to almost look at this as an occasional long distance relationship, because when I get on a movie, or like right now is my busy season. From January to May is when I am the most busy out of the entire year. And it's like during this season, he knows that like I'm not going to be around as much, and I'm going to be a lot busier, and just kind of like, he's very flexible within that. But I think long distance relationships have to be flexible. You have to just like be able to squeeze in the time with that person when you can, even when it's like kind of goofy or kind of inconvenient maybe for someone, but that's like the sacrifice you take to be with that person. And I think that's a lot of what a relationship looks like, whether it's romantic or not. I think, like you have to have friends that are okay with not talking to them for a little bit. And also friends who are like, like I am off this week, but it's my first week off in a month and I need this week to rest. Like, just people who are really understanding. And one thing that film shows you, which I think is actually really beautiful, is like, it really shows you who cares, like who your real friends are, like who cares about you the most to understand these things. And they're going to come alongside you and they're going to support it. And like, those are the people that you want to stick with. But I think the reality of maintaining life in film is that you prioritize and then you stick to it. Because if you fall out of a routine, that's when everything's going to crumble. So if you have your routine, like, stick to it. And if you fall out of your routine, I personally find that if I fall out of my routine, like if I don't go to church for like a week or two, I won't go to church for like a month, because you start just, things just fall through the cracks. But I feel worse. Like I become a much more irritable person, when I'm not, when I'm not in church, or when I'm not seeing my friends, I become really lonely, even though in my head I'm resting. Like, so find your balance, figure out what's important to you, figure out who's important to you and what's important to you, prioritize, and then just really just stick to it. And remember that, like, and my fiance reminds me of this all the time, like, you get to the point where it's okay to say no to a job every once in a while. And you kind of get this mentality in film where it's like, yes, you do want to say yes to a majority of jobs. That is the reality of your job, is like, you got to say yes to most of them, because if you say no all the time, no one's going to call you. Like, you got to maintain that balance. But when you get to the point that you're working a lot, and you have enough contacts, and you've worked with this person 7 times, and you say yes every time. Like, there are times where you can just be like, hey, I really, like, for example, for me, I needed this week off. I need to wedding plan, and I got things I got to do. And so every contact that hit me up for this week, I literally was like, not working this week. I need off for personal time. And they understand. And you have to get to that point, but like, I have to learn to say no. I have to learn that it is okay to turn them down when you've earned it, if that's an okay way to say it.
Yeah.
But like, all these really important things, and just obviously self-care, take care of yourself, whatever. You will so quickly learn what your self-care looks like. For me, it is video games. Video games are a big self-care for me. It is like sitting by a pool, like, or like even like taking a bath, like water for some reason is like a very key thing, or going to the ocean. But like, find what really relaxes you, and again, prioritize your time. So if you have one afternoon off, make sure you're, spending that on what is your self-care for you, like what's going to relax you the most. So if you get into film, you're going to learn a lot about yourself very quickly, but it's good. I think it's why a lot of people I work with in film are more mature for their age. And I think a big part of it is, to be successful young in film, you have to know yourself really well. And it's a cool thing. And then also, who you work with is going to become your friends and your family. Yeah. Like the people I work with in film, like, they really are like an extension of my family, and they hold a place like as near and dear as people I've known for 8 years, even though I've worked with them for a year. But with the right people, you cultivate beautiful relationships, and it becomes okay. It gets better. Yeah. But it's a try and fail. Yeah.
We're going to talk about how you're not just working on film sets, but you're making money while doing it. But before we get into that, I want to thank all of our patrons who are supporting me on Patreon. I want to thank Felix Arroyo, Wesley Hamilton.
Woo, Wes!
We got Kang, Drew Lee, Andrew White, and Vegas VR. And before we start talking about how to not just work on film sets, but make money while you're doing that, we're actually going to close our YouTube segment. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. And cut!